So Florida and California are going at it again. A crash on the east coast of Florida that took 3 lives this weekend is at the center of the fight.
3 people are dead in Florida. A semi-truck driver made what can only be described as a catastrophically bad decision on the Florida Turnpike. And now we're left asking some hard questions about accountability, enforcement, and yes, immigration policy. Today, let's look at the tragedy in Fort Pierce and why this case matters beyond just another traffic accident. Let's start with what we know happened on August 14th, 2025. Harjinder Singh was driving a semi-truck on the Florida Turnpike near Fort Pierce when he decided to make an illegal U-turn on a major highway with a massive commercial vehicle. This wasn't some split-second mistake or momentary lapse in judgment. This was a deliberate decision that any commercial driver should know is both illegal and incredibly dangerous. You don't accidentally attempt a U-turn with an 80,000-pound vehicle on a busy turnpike. The result? 3 innocent people are dead, multiple others injured, families destroyed, all because one person thought traffic laws were optional. Singh has now been charged with 3 counts of vehicular homicide, and frankly, those charges are appropriate. This was reckless, inexcusable, and entirely preventable. Now, here's where this case gets more complicated and more frustrating. It turns out Singh's immigration status is now part of this story, and while authorities haven't released all the details yet,
this is another incident regarding immigration that's intertwined with the Trump administration and Governor Gavin Newsom's administration, and it's bringing up questions about how he was here illegally in the country and how he was able to obtain a California driver's license.
We're told he's not a U.S. citizen. Look, I want to be careful here because due process matters. It's literally in our name, but we have to ask the uncomfortable question. How many of these preventable tragedies involve people who shouldn't be operating commercial vehicles in this country in the first place? I'm not painting with a broad brush here. The vast majority of immigrant drivers, documented and undocumented, are law-abiding people trying to make an honest living. However, when individuals without legal status operate dangerous commercial equipment and make such reckless decisions, we must examine our systems. If Singh wasn't legally authorized to be in this country, then every mile he drove was a risk that could have been prevented through proper enforcement. This brings us to a larger policy discussion that's been brewing for years. Right now, 19 states and Washington, D.C., that's 20 jurisdictions in total, allow undocumented immigrants to obtain some form of driver's license. The list includes California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, and Rhode Island, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, and Washington. Not all licenses are the same, though. 2 states, Washington and New Mexico, go the furthest by offering unrestricted licenses that look just like the standard ones everyone else gets. Other states issue driving privilege-only cards that don't qualify for federal identification purposes. Connecticut and Delaware, for instance, issue licenses with special markings to indicate the holder doesn't have lawful status. And those markings matter. Florida, Tennessee, and Wyoming have already passed laws refusing to honor out-of-state licenses that carry those undocumented designations. That means someone who is perfectly legal to drive in Connecticut.
Now, this is video of him in court today where he was read his rights and was told how the legal process will work. He is being held on no bail and is expected to be picked up by Florida officials so he can be taken to court in Florida.
Could suddenly be treated as if they have no license at all when crossing into Florida. It's a legal tangle that leaves drivers in limbo depending on which state line they cross. The argument behind allowing undocumented immigrants to obtain licenses is that it's better for public safety if people are trained, tested, and insured rather than driving completely off the books. And that logic resonates with many. If someone's going to drive anyway, better they know the rules. But the counter-argument is powerful too. By issuing licenses, are we normalizing and even encouraging violations of federal immigration law? And more importantly, are we creating weak points in accountability when it comes to something as high stakes as operating commercial vehicles? Now, to be clear, there's no conclusive evidence that undocumented drivers are more dangerous than citizens or legal residents. Safety ultimately comes down to the individual driver, not their paperwork, but when policies differ so dramatically across states, enforcement becomes inconsistent, and tragedies like this shine a spotlight on the cracks in the system. The commercial licensing system is supposed to ensure that only qualified, properly vetted individuals operate massive trucks like the one Singh was driving. If that system has holes, people die. So where does this leave us? Singh will likely spend years, maybe decades, in prison if convicted. That's accountability on the individual level. But what about the system? What about the policies that may have allowed this situation to develop in the first place? The families of those 3 victims don't care about our immigration debates or the clash between state and federal rules. They want answers. They want accountability, and they want assurance that we're doing everything possible to prevent this from happening again. The frustrating reality is that while Singh faces personal consequences, the bigger systemic issues remain unresolved. We're still dealing with a messy patchwork of state and federal policies that don't align. And we're still watching states like Florida refuse to honor licenses that other states issue. And we're still left with gaps in enforcement that can and do cost lives. Meanwhile, the next potential tragedy is already out there on our roads. Now, that's all for today's Due Process Daily. If you found this analysis helpful, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We'll continue to follow this case as it moves through the courts, and we'll keep asking the hard questions about the policies that affect all of us.